Okay.
Okay,
That
we're going to
right?
go. Shall I just introduce you?
Yeah.
Hi, Kathleen. Thank you so much for speaking to us today. We're really looking forward to what you've got to say.
Thanks very much, Michelle. Hi, Heather. And hello to everyone who is engaging on this improvement project with Heather and Michelle, and lots of other people coming in to share their learning as well. So it's an exciting project, and I'm really looking forward to sharing a wee bit of my learning in relation to improvement and how it's so important to consider not just all the processes that we learn in relation to improvement, but how people play an important part of that process as well. So people and processes working together, those essential ingredients, and taking time to understand the human side of improvement, then how we understand some of the processes that help us to take our ideas and turn them from a change into an improvement. And I know that you've been talking about that, and then be really, really clear about how those changes are actually leading to improvement. So you're happy for me just to move on, ladies?
Yes, please.
Oh, yes, please.
Okay, so, you know, whenever we hear about improvement and improvement plans and priorities and measures, it's all about these processes, isn't it? It's how we know that we've achieved a certain amount or a certain score. There's things like qualitative measures and quantitative measures. Actually, if we don't have the people engaged, then those measures don't mean anything. They're just shallow. There's no substance to them underneath. So what we need is to bring together our people and our processes and the systems that we work as part of. And this session is really about how we harness that collective, the collective strength of people and processes and systems. So probably the thing that's hardest to do, and it may take the longest time, and it's also the biggest area that people trip up on, is that they assume that there's psychological trust and safety, and people are comfortable in our teams in being able to take forward collaborative work together. But actually, it's the time that we need to spend to make sure that the places that we create for improvement activity feel safe, and that it's a trusted place where you can share your ideas openly and you won't be judged, and that you are in a place where you can take chances relatively and try things out with a degree of risk, but not feel that you're going to be judged for that. So creating a safe place and building that culture of valuing that trust and those ideas is very, very important, because we know that if we don't have that kind of culture and ethos, then folk won't feel like sharing their ideas and their thinking. Such an important part. And you know what's really interesting is that quite often we find that we jump this wee bit. We're so keen to get on and do the thing that needs improved that we miss building that these psychologically safe places. And Heather and Michelle, we know this even from the work that we do, how long we take to build that network of safe places. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to come in with there.
I was just going to say that makes sense, because although we might want to spend longer doing that, ultimately putting the effort in at that stage means that we will have more impact in the long run. We could jump to the next phase, but without doing that, our desired impact won't land at all. So although it takes time and it takes effort, it's definitely worth the payoff.
And I think probably all of us know times when we've tried to do things too quickly in school and try and implement something without building that place of psychological safety. And I personally can reflect on that at times over my career. So it's really interesting to hear and to just have time today to reflect on that and think about how we can do things differently in the future.
Absolutely. And time spent building relationships as well. That's an important part of that process, because we get to find out all the different strengths and skills that we have. And you know, we're all different. Some of us are, you know, very vocal and want to share our ideas as they're formulating in our heads, and other folk are quieter. So it's really important that there's a space at the table for everyone, and that through that building relationships and getting to know one another, you really get a picture of the collective strength around the virtual table, as it were. So yeah, building relationships is another one, because that then creates those firm foundations for what comes next. And there's a diagram here that's probably my favourite diagram in all of quality improvement. It's a really simple one, and it's about how people and processes come together, because if you're building relationships and you're building that trust, you're also creating the conditions for folk to feel motivated about the thing that they want to improve. They're excited, and everybody wants to be involved, and they might not even be excited, but that motivation is there, that desire, that will to improve. We've also built that trust, and we've built those relationships for the ideas to come forth as well. So people come with their ideas, and they've got ideas for improving the thing that you want to change. But having will and having ideas is not enough. We need to be able to implement those ideas. And that means that we need to make sure that the changes we're making are actually going to lead to improvement. And you know, when we've looked at this in the past, it's that whole idea that we set our improvement plan priorities, and then we've got a period of time to take these priorities forward and make sure that they actually lead to improvement. But before you know it, the end of the year comes, and you suddenly think, wow, what happened? And how do we know? We don't really know if that's made a difference or not, because we didn't measure it properly. So implementation is really important. It's about the tools and the techniques that help us to understand. Now, when you bring those three bits together, the will, the ideas, the implementation, the magic happens. That's when we get quality improvement. So each one of those bubbles really is a vital component in making sure that quality improvement happens. So that's us talked about people and processes, and I know that you've spent some time thinking about that difference between change and improvement. And sometimes we can make change a bit of an industry, can't we? You know, we're so driven by that. We need to make the change. We need to make the change. Firstly, is it the change that you need to make? That's a question. How do we know that that's the change that we need to make? We need to find out what the data's telling us. So, you know, for example, improvement in spelling in first level, or something as improving attendance. What is the data telling us to let us know that that's the change that we need to make? And then how do we know that the change that we've made is actually going to lead to improvement? So it's being clear about what the difference is before and what that difference is after, and it's about those incremental changes. So making those little changes across time, that data over time that's telling us we're moving towards the thing that we really wanted to achieve in the first place, and that we're actually having that positive impact on our learners. Anything you wanted to add there?
I think that fits in really well with the whole theme of these workshops that we're going to be doing over the course of the year. We're going to be looking at data that we have in school and how we can use that data to know where we are now, and to know where we want to go, and to know if we've actually made an improvement. So I think it all ties in really well.
Yeah, and what I always say is, we don't have time. We don't have time to waste in our precious days to be able to be doing things that actually don't make a difference. So by being really careful about how we're planning for our improvement and using our will and our ideas and our implementation really effectively, we're giving our improvement activity the best chance of making a difference. So when we think about improvement, it's about people, isn't it? It's about our learners, it's about us as one another, as a team. So we're humans. We're you know, we've got beliefs about things, and we've got values about what we think. And sometimes, especially with the pressures that we can have in our own systems, it can feel a wee bit done too, can't it? You know, when you're told that you need to make this difference and you actually don't feel that connection with the thing that you need to do. And that's where it's really important to unpick what that change is that we need to make, and to really understand how our team feel about that change, what their theories are about that change, what their beliefs are. Because if we don't spend time doing that, that influences the actions of our team, and it influences the consequences of our change. So, you know, it's absolutely important to spend time to really unpick, what is this change? What does it really, really mean to us as a team? And then when we've got that whole team buy-in, that will, and that motivation to make that change, that gives the actions the best chance for moving forward. And if the actions are all being driven by the whole team, then the consequences of those actions are more likely to lead to improvement. And that comes from the work of Viviane Robinson. And there's a book that she has written called Reduce Change to Increase Improvement. And I know that you'll be sharing that with the team. And if we want to unpick that model a wee bit further, it's from the bypass and engage model, isn't it? Shall we talk a wee bit more about that?
Yes, please.
Okay. So the bypass and engage model, please don't be put off by all these boxes. We're looking at two elements here. We're looking at bypassing people's beliefs, just what we were talking about there, and going straight to the thing that needs to be changed. So we've not really talked about it, not really had the opportunity to agree on what it is that needs to happen. We've just been told, and we've not had any chance to really be able to kind of connect with the thing that needs to happen. So let's break it down into little sections. So if we're bypassing everyone's, you know, the kind of the change, we're bypassing what people think, then we're going with what the leader thinks needs to happen. So what we're avoiding is everyone's beliefs and everyone's opinions about that change, and we're going straight to the thing that needs to happen. And what's the output of that? What are the consequences? The consequences are compliance, and compliance. Sometimes you think compliance is a good thing, but when it comes to improvement activity, it's not really, because there's a half-hearted attempt at engaging, or people adapt to it, but there isn't that genuine kind of wholehearted buy-in until perhaps data starts to come along. So sometimes bypass, if you've got a short time scale and you need to get a thing done, it can work, but the chances of it leading to improvement are not as strong as when we engage one another. So you take the improvement idea, you take it to the team, and you have a dialogical process, a discussion, a debate about what that element is, what's the data telling us, what is the leader thinking about it, what are the teachers thinking about it. You come to that shared theory around what needs to happen, and then the consequences are you have a joint decision to change or not change following the debate and the discussion that you've had. So it's very much a joint decision and a shared set of actions moving forward. Anything you want to add there, folks?
I really think that it's really helpful, because I think often leaders or people who are leading some sort of change feel they have to be the expert rather than a co-learner with their staff. So having that dialogical process and that joint decision to change, as you say, it'll really influence the outcome, and unpicking those beliefs. Sometimes we think we know what's happening in a system, but actually the people who are on the ground and about it every day are the ones who truly know it, and we need to take account of those beliefs. So yeah, moving away from being that expert to that co-learner and co-designing that change definitely, but hopefully is reassuring for people, but also will help people to move forward a bit better.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to say, the thing that springs to my mind is that it's incumbent on the leader to know their teams well, because if you want to help your team explore their beliefs, then you need to know the best conditions to allow them to do that. Some people don't work really well in a big meeting with 60 people sitting in a room. Some people need that individual conversation, whereas some people really spring to life when they share ideas and they have that dialogue. So I think for me, it makes me think, oh, I need to know my people well, and then allow them the spaces to unpick their own beliefs.
Yeah, absolutely. So important, knowing one another, just as we would our learners, knowing each member of as a learner, because that's what it's all about. It is about learning. Improvement is about learning and what we learn from and how it leads to that improved outcome. Okay, so that's very much about understanding us as humans and how our beliefs impact upon the consequences and the actions behind that improvement activity. But then we're going to introduce processes again, and what Vivian Robinson talks about is the 4 stages of improvement, and that's when you get process coming back in, because then if we've got that agreement and a shared theory, where we hear that phrase shared theory, but if we've got a shared theory for action, how do we take that shared theory and turn it into action? And that's where the processy bit comes in. So we're agreeing that what the problem is. And then we've got that how are we that being curious bit. I love that word. Curious is such an important part of being an improver. And be understanding when you've got that theory and you start to try things out, what happened and why did that happen? What do we think's going to happen next? And it's all these questions. Being able to evaluate and being clear about what the criteria for evaluation is, and being very, very clear about what we think. That predicting is an important part of the process as well, what we think is going to happen, because once the thing's happened, we can then go back and say, why did that not happen the way we thought it would happen? What was it that was different? And then, of course, the monitoring of, so looking at those measures to understand how we're progressing towards our aim and the outcome that we want to see. So being very clear and specific about our progress. And so I love this quote. I think it's really great. It's about that ethos of continual improvement rather than it being in the end point, and being able to see that the problem in a way that invites rather than shuts down differing views. So you've got that culture and those processes woven right through that. And I know that your next steps are to look at the model for improvement as a way of implementing and monitoring and evaluating your progress. And I'm not going to go into any great detail around that. But the model for improvement is a process that helps us to identify a really clear aim, measures around that aim, and then being able to try out and test theories to work towards that aim, and then looking at how you're progressing over time, that data over time. And ultimately it helps you to understand whether the changes that you've made have actually led to improvement. And that's the kind of end goal, isn't it? So that's where I'll leave it there, Heather and Michelle. You got anything you wanted to ask or anything more you wanted to add?
I think that set us up beautifully for moving forward, Michelle.
I think so. That was really, really helpful. Thank you. We're going to show our colleagues Vivian Robinson's book and point them to a few suggested podcasts and things they can maybe listen to between the sessions. So that was really helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good luck, everyone. I'm excited to hear how everybody gets on.
Well, please come back and visit us. So over the course of the year, come and see us.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Thanks.